bonjour, and a big old bienvenue.
What he said.
We're talking French stuff today.
Home, home, home.
Ho, ho, ho. We're going to talk about some baguettes.
Baguettes. Literally, we're going to talk about baguettes.
Literally, yes, that is true.
Yeah. Yeah. This is not us just making a France joke.
Mm-hmm. Hello, welcome to this week's episode of the Season Anime Checkup OVA. It's a podcast where we have conversations about video games, anime, and manga. Hello, I'm Jared, joined as always by Doc, Al, and Lady
Hello.
This is episode number 445, and it's time to talk about the big French game of 2025.
Yes.
Clair Obscur Expedition 33.
It's a video game.
It's a video game. It's very French.
It is very French.
Hon, hon, hon. Yes, it's a game that a lot of people have been talking about because it seems to be pretty good.
Yeah.
The people like it.
The people do like it.
It sold a lot of copies.
I'm the people.
You're the people.
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, this game came out on April the 24th of this year for the PS5, Xbox, and PC. Al played it first, and then I have now just played through it, so now we can talk about it.
Yay.
It has a lot of good acclaim.
Mm-hmm.
On the Metacritic, it has a 91 out of 100 for PC, 93 out of 100 for PS5, and 91 out of 100 for the Xbox. And on OpenCritic, it is 97% recommended.
Wow, that's high.
It is high.
Wow.
Let's see here. It sold 500,000 units in the first 24 hours of its release, 1 million in 3 days, 2 million within 12, and by May 27th, the game had sold 3.3 million units.
I'm going to call into question that number because it feels convenient that it'd be 3.3, which makes 33.
3.3 million units in 33 days.
Yeah, see,
I'm
sure it sold a lot, and it's probably around 3 million, but 3.3 in 33 days feels a little sus.
a little convenient.
Yeah.
So yeah. What else?
Oh my God, the president of France celebrated this game.
What a thing to do.
That is wild.
Yeah. French RPG. Hon, hon, hon.
Hold on home.
It's got a wild cast in it.
Yeah, no kidding. The cast is incredible.
All sorts of folks in it.
Mm-hmm. Like the Ben Star.
Who's that?
Some guy.
He's just some
He likes
dude.
Final Fantasy VIII.
I think I've heard that once or twice.
Yeah. He's pretty cool, I guess.
Charlie Cox is in it. The Daredevil man.
The Daredevil man.
Mr. Daredevil
Gollum?
himself. Yeah, Andy Serkis is here.
Jennifer English, which people may know or may not know, depending on what they played. Pretty good cast.
Pretty good cast.
Pretty good cast.
Let's talk about the development of this game.
Okay.
The ideas behind Clair Obscur originated in 2019 with Guillaume Brochet, an employee of Ubisoft not long before the COVID-19 pandemic. Broche had an idea based on one of his childhood favorites, the Final Fantasy series. You may have heard of it.
I have heard of it once or twice. We may have just mentioned it like a minute ago.
Yeah. He sent out some requests for help to craft a demo to a group of other developers he knew, as well as requests on Reddit in April 2020 looking for voice actors. To work on his project full-time, Broche would leave Ubisoft that year and form Sandfall Interactive alongside Francois Meurice, an old friend and fellow Ubisoft developer Tom Guillermin. Good
luck with the
French names.
I don't know French. You know French a little bit better than me.
I mean, just barely. The three co-founders would soon be joined by Nicholas Markson Francombe, Jennifer Zvedberg-Yin, and Lorien Testard. The six forming the kickoff team. Maxon Francombe, the game's art director, was discovered and recruited off ArtStation by Broche. Zvedberg-Yin, one of the voice actors who had stumbled upon Broche's Reddit post, was cast for the original demo, gained a more prominent role in development, becoming the game's lead writer. Lorient Testard, the composer, was discovered by Broche through a post on a French indie video game forum where he linked a track from the SoundCloud page. After securing a partnership and funding from publisher Kepler Interactive in early 2023, Sandfall grew into a core team of about 30 developers, 3 of whom, including Broche and Gierman, were former Ubisoft developers. The funding also allowed Sandfall to expand the manpower contributed to the project, having outsourced gameplay animation to a team of 8 South Korean freelancers and quality assurance to dozens of QA testers from the firm QLOC, as well as receiving porting support from half a dozen developers from Ebb Software.
That's a little bit more than 30.
Just a little bit. The studio also notably hired performance capture artists, brought in musicians for the soundtrack recording sessions, or delegated language localization, as well as both English and French voice production to external contractors. Finally, the partnership with Kepler Interactive enables Sandfall to pay for noted professional voice actors, including Charlie Cox, Andy Serkis, and Ben Starr. Cox has jokingly stated he was in the studio for barely 4 hours to record his dialogue, and he felt like a fraud over being lauded for his performance. Svedberg Yen clarified on her social media accounts that his endeavor had taken around 8 hours.
Yeah, I remember seeing the video of him being like, I feel really embarrassed that you're asking me about this because I was barely there. Which is kind of a spoiler.
Oops.
Broche
said one of the goals of Clair Obscur was to create a high-fidelity turn-based RPG, which he had felt been neglected by AAA game developers. Besides Final Fantasy, Clair Obscur took inspiration from other Japanese role-playing games, including the Persona series. Of the latter series, Broche praised Persona 5 for its user interface and use of camera work during battles, making it feel like you're watching a movie.
Well, at least you got the parts of Persona 5 that were good in there.
Broche also considered Lost Odyssey and Blue Dragon, JRPGs developed for Microsoft's drive to bring the Xbox consoles to Japan, as an influence, particularly their use of QuickTime events during combat.
Lost Odyssey mention! Lost Odyssey mention!
According to producer Francois Meurice, the game drew inspiration from Squaresoft's Final Fantasy VIII, 9, and 10 in particular, while the dodge and parry mechanics were influenced by From Software's Sekiro Shadows Die Twice.
Final Fantasy VIII mention.
They're just hitting all your check boxes here.
Where's my Shadow Hearts?
True. Well.
I mean, you could definitely say that, it's similar to Shadow Hearts, but
Sure.
They didn't mention it, so I guess they didn't play Shadow Hearts like most everybody else on the earth.
Unfortunately.
Blech.
Development initially began under the codename Project W and was first known as We Lost around the time that Broche sought help on Reddit. The initial trailer that Broche used showed a steampunk setting inspired by Victorian-era England with more science fiction elements including zombies and aliens. About 6 months into this approach, potential investors suggested that Broche should think bigger, leading him to reset the entire narrative, though he kept some of the characters that he had already conceived. The new setting was based on a painting Broche admired, which depicted a painter entering her own work, as well as a short story written by Svedberg Yen. Development had begun using Unreal 4 at early stages and later switching to Unreal 5 to take advantage of Unreal 5's improvements in rendering and animation. The switch to UE5 was motivated by its nanite and lumen features, allowing for higher fidelity assets and more realistic lighting, respectively. The adoption of lumen necessitated reworking the lighting for most environments. Additionally, UE5 brought better character creation support, allowing to switch from Reallusion's character creation. The developers also made use of ready-made assets for background objects such as rocks, which allows them to focus on creating hero assets, i.e. large-scale assets that make an impression on the viewer. Broche credits the simplicity of modern game engines to help bring the project together. The game went gold on March 22nd of this year, coincidentally 33 days before the game's release. Womp womp.
Oh, well.
In January 2025, Story Kitchen announced a live-action adaptation of the game with developer Sandfall Interactive.
Huh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I remember when they first announced this game, which I feel like, I don't remember if it was last year or like 2 years ago.
I remember it was at some kind of like game announcement thing, and I was just like,
it was very much everyone just kind of like, oh, this just looks like a generic action game, blah, blah, blah. And then there was like a scene where like it was turn-based combat, and everyone just like whiplashed their head around. It was like, wait a minute, hang on a second.
I was the one that was like turn-based.
Yeah, this game is very turn-based, it turns out.
Man, I love a good turn-based. As you are well aware.
As I am well aware, yes. Yeah, this game definitely is more unique, I would say, in terms of how it utilized the turn-based, in terms of its combat in particular, per se, because, a lot of the the characters have different abilities that they can use that is very different from one another. They have like some of the abilities will basically turn into once you do it, you have to hit some quick time events, and like you have to do some button presses to make sure you get the full breadth of it. You can shoot guns like it's a Persona game, but you have like full actual like aiming and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to that,
So you can hit like weak points.
yes. And then you can either avoid enemy attacks by dodging or parrying, which obviously brought a lot of people's thoughts and opinions about parrying into question once this game came out.
It also is worth mentioning they do have an accessibility feature of the QuickTime events for the attacks and heals and things like that. You can automate those, which is a nice accessibility feature.
Yeah, and I think on like the lower difficulty settings as well, the parry window is larger.
Correct.
So you don't have to worry about it too much.
Correct.
Though you still have to make sure your timing is good.
Yes.
But yeah,
you will still die if you get hit too much.
But basically parrying means that like you can, if you are successful in parrying all of an enemy's attacks, you will get a counterattack essentially, which you can use to deal a lot of damage all at once, either individually or as your collective party of 3 essentially. Which is nice.
Yes.
And you can basically also just like customize the characters in terms of their abilities, because they'll have a skill tree of abilities you can get and then put in whatever you want with that.
You were going to say their outfits.
I mean, we'll get to that. There's also pictos you can equip to people, and those will kind of like also allow you to customize how a character is and everything. And you can also spread that out to everyone, essentially, in terms of like, you know, you can have a bunch of different combat abilities when you're attacking and everything. You can have like auto heals, you can protect yourself against status effects, all that sort of stuff, which is very nice and very useful. I also didn't understand that system until like a couple hours into the game. I thought you just equipped the pictos and that was it, and then eventually I was like, oh, I can just also put them on here and they'll just get them without them being equipped. Oh,
Nahone.
And then that just changed the game for me.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and there's also, like we said, the customization in terms of how the characters look, because there's a lot of different costumes you can have your characters wear, ranging from, you know, kind of normal looking costumes that you would expect from this game to just the absurd costumes you can also have in this game, which are very good and very fun, especially when they are shown in cutscenes. Sometimes you want to have your characters dress up and have a baguette on their back. Sometimes you want them to just have the most ridiculous haircut man has ever seen.
Yeah, I went slightly more normal than you did. I did have like baguette costumes, but I did for the most part have like normal hairstyles and things like that. And then I watched you play and I was like, okay.
You essentially, when I first started playing, you're like, I can't wait to see what you do with these characters in terms of what costumes you're gonna do.
I knew you were gonna go crazy with it. I know you.
And you were right.
Yes, I was absolutely right. 100% right. And I'm thankful for it.
And then you can also customize characters as well, because you have 5 stats you can put stat points into, and you can basically do whatever you want with those. So yeah, very customizable in terms of how you want these characters to play and everything. But for the most part, you'll probably just have like the 3 characters you like to play as, and just kind of dump everything into them.
That's what I did.
Yeah,
that's what you did too.
But yeah, I really like the gameplay in this. It was fun. It felt very different from just a lot of modern JRPGs or just turn-based RPGs in general.
Yeah.
The parrying stuff does take a little bit time to get used to, but I feel like once you kind of get it, you'll have like the timing down, and it won't feel just like super terrible or anything. It won't feel like you're just constantly getting hit. Like there will be like once you encounter an enemy for the first time, there'll be a little bit of a learning curve, because you have to learn the enemy's like attack patterns and all that sort of stuff. But once you get those down, it'll be like you'll be kind of cruising through fights and all that, especially like the regular enemies you kind of run into all the time. So
It's very satisfying when you do figure out like boss patterns
it
and
is
things like
very
that.
satisfying for
And it's just
sure.
like, hey, take that, you dork. You may not actually say that, but it's okay.
Unless you're a gremlin.
Well,
Well,
who could that be?
well.
Who could be a gremlin?
Well, there's a house full of gremlins, I know.
No way. We're normal. All of us are normal.
Hee hee hee.
So normal.
Yeah. Fun characters, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Some really fun characters. Your main group has an interesting dynamic to all of them as well, and then you get some like fun characters like SK and Minoko, who are just kind of goblins in their own rights.
Yep. They sure are.
SK is just a good boy.
He's such a good boy.
Just wants to help you out and help you travel around the map and all that.
He has his woos and his wees.
You get to look very tall, like it's the Dynasty Warriors map.
Yeah, you do. It's pretty good.
It's pretty good. And the story is very interesting because it definitely takes a lot of twists and turns, especially early on, that you aren't going to be expecting.
Yep.
Um, and those basically continue on throughout most of the game as well. So it's a wild ride all the way throughout to the end for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when you get like the first big twist, you're like, oh, that's the kind of game we're getting into. And then it just keeps doing those to you. And you're like, I'm feeling things. Wah,
Wah.
wah, feelings. But they're good. I mean, it's really well done. And, I think it's a testament to the writing that like I actually was shocked by some of the reveals, but also like enjoyed the characters enough that I cared what was going on with them and wanted to see what the deal was.
hmm and basically, like your main premise of this game is that like you're on this island called Lumiere. Um, essentially, people don't grow old; they live to like 33 ish, early
So
30s.
they've been given years. It's been counting down for well years. That basically like whatever number is painted on the monolith, the people that are that age get gommage, which is essentially like erased
hmm
from existence. And that number keeps reducing every single year. So this year is the switch over from 34 to 33. So anybody who was 34 was 34 or was 33? Was 33 gets erased. So anybody that's 32 or younger, they're next.
hmm
That's how it goes.
Yeah, and there's a entity called the Paintress who's painting the number way out there, and then they essentially are sending expeditions of people out towards that area to try and find out what exactly is going on and attempt to try and stop it.
Hmm.
But it hasn't worked because they've been doing this for 67 years now, and nothing's really changed.
Yeah. Oops.
Oops, magoops.
They're trying.
And this is Expedition 33, as hinted by the title of the game.
No way.
And they're gonna try and figure things out this time. And yeah.
They're they're helped by Gustav, who has the Lumina converter this time,
mm-hmm.
which is something that like they feel like is going to be the game changer for this expedition.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it does help.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't help the whole expedition,
No.
but it does help. Which yeah, I guess we should say like we're gonna go into spoilers now, because like I feel like people should experience that beginning section like without spoiling
For
themselves.
sure.
Um, because that landing scene, I was just like, what the
Mm-hmm.
what do you mean? And like seeing it without knowing what's gonna happen is A plus. I was hooked immediately. I'm like, all right, I'm in. I'm locked in. Let's go. Also, I thought Lune was a hallucination at one point.
I mean, that's
She just kind
fair.
of shows up and is like a gal who's floating, and I'm like, are you real? Turns out she is.
She is very real. I
Well,
oh, okay, so we're in spoilers now, but here's some for if you're here with the spoilers, welcome. But also, I want to ask you,
okay.
what the heck is going on with Ichi's head? Why is he at an angle somehow? And it looks like he's floating off the box. This is obviously not going to play for anyone else, but I have cat cam right now, and there's a kitty that just looks like he's just floating his head in the air, and it's at an angle, and it looks very uncomfortable, and I'm just very confused. Now Game's just looking at me, just like, well, stop talking, I'm sleeping.
It's because I'm laughing. Oh, hi, Ichiban. Um, I mean, he is at an angle, but he is also on a box. I don't know if I can get at you a better angle so you can see what's
That does
happening.
look a little bit more normal. It just looks like it looked like from the position you had it, his head was just floating in the air. I was just like, how's that happening?
Well, I looked down and I saw what you meant. I was like, wait a minute.
It's very bizarre. All right, go back to the bed, kitties.
All right, sleepy time. Goodbye.
They're like, you woke us up.
You woke us up.
Anyways, yeah, you made me you made me watch, or have you watch me play through that opening bit.
Yee.
So I got to see all of the gomage and everything, and then they set out for the expedition, and then just everything went to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah, yeah. Everything's bad. The expedition commander Alan goes up and is like, "You're old," and
Gets his head cut off.
yeah, his head just falls to the
And
ground.
it's like, oh, this is not good.
And then everybody gets attacked.
Yep.
Um, it, our dude Gustav is struggling. He can't hear anything. He's kind of rattled. He's seeing people die around him. Um, he he gets saved at one point by one of the other expeditioners who like takes him behind a rock, and then another expeditioner gets taken from behind the rock, and um the first dude did a sweet parry at one point, but obviously didn't turn out for him because he also died.
Yep.
But yeah, it's a massacre. They run into an old man, and it is a straight up massacre.
Yeah,
Yeah, seeing that dude's head go
yeah,
wild.
like you said, it's interesting because you see someone who's old and everyone's just like, huh? This doesn't make sense. Why would you be old? You can't be old.
You can be old.
And then he
We don't
just
do
murders
that.
everyone.
Yep.
But yeah, Gustav is able to get out eventually. He eventually meets up with Lune, and they go find Mael, who's like Gustav's kind of sister daughter.
Sister daughter, yeah.
That's your
Yeah, Gustav almost gives up though.
Yeah, that's your first like team of 3 that you get.
Mhm.
But you also eventually meet up with I never learned how to pronounce her name. CL.
CL.
There you go. She becomes the 4th member of your group because she was also these are all current members of Expedition 33. I guess we should say the only survivors of Expedition 33.
Yeah, those 4 are the only survivors of Expedition 33.
Yeah.
Which, oops.
Yeah, then basically you're just off trying to figure out what to do next.
It's also worth mentioning that Mael goes with Expedition 33 even though she's 16.
Yes.
Which people note is very unusual because like you still have several years left.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Nah, I'm good. I don't really fit in, and I don't really like being there or anything. So may as well go with my brudda, dad, brudda, dad,
Brother Dad.
dad, brudda,
They eventually find her in like a weird house, a weird manor,
a manor,
being tended to by a faceless entity named the Curator, who just
Yep.
follows them back to their camp. Is like, I'll just upgrade stuff for you, I guess. I don't know.
Mm.
Very mysterious.
He's very mysterious.
You learn about the Gestrels,
Yes.
just weird little dudes, and
Um,
sometimes weird big dudes, I guess, as well. But
I don't know if you like have looked at them recently, but I realized that their little heads are like paintbrushes
yeah,
and that their bodies are like the little posable guys.
yeah,
I was like, oh my gosh,
yeah.
that's fun. There's so many references wrapped within references in these guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like the "this is fine" thing.
So yeah, Mile gets some weird visions at that points, which I think is really interesting. That the way they do those is that like when she gets these visions of the white-haired man and the girl who looks like her,
Mm-hmm.
it switches to black and white, but also switches to 4:3.
Yes, it
It's a
does.
very neat stylistic choice there for the flashbacks in particular,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is a really cool thing that they do for sure.
You should
Um,
go back and watch those now that you've actually beat the game.
that's so much work.
Okay, well, there's some interesting things there. Um, like you hear at one point the big turning point of like the major story of, what happened to the one character in the manor.
You wanted
Like
me to go and get the other ending, and the game was like, "No, you're not getting this other ending." So
I don't understand why it wouldn't let you get it.
it's because I beat the game, so the game was like, "You're good,
Wow.
thumbs up."
All right, I guess. Um, but yeah, you get to hear that whole thing go down, and I was like, oh God, like listening to that again is pretty gnarly, knowing what's going on there.
Yeah, they so yeah, they keep just doing stuff. They eventually get SK to help them cross the sea,
Best boy.
and then they're doing some stuff, and the white-haired man shows up again, and he just kills Gustav.
Just straight up like punches him through the chest, and like Gustav is just dripping blood out of this hole in his chest, and is like, well, I guess I'm gonna keep trying to fight. And Mael is like in a paint cage, trying to get to him, and Gustav overdoes it, and his arm falls off. He does have a fake arm, I should probably clarify. It's not just like his natural arm just dies. Um, but then after his arm falls off, then he gets stabbed again, and then
hmm
it
Which I
dies.
was like, "Oh, like they just killed who I
Yeah.
thought was the protagonist of this game."
Yep.
Huh.
Yep.
Interesting.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, is Mael the protagonist of this game now?
Turns out the answer is yes.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, that happens. You're just like, what the f? And then another dude just shows up and helps you out of there,
Hmm.
who is
He apparently
Verso.
looted Gustav's body.
Yeah. Here
Oh
here
God.
is one Ben Starr.
Yes.
Um, you learn from Verso some truths. He tells you that he was a part of the first expedition.
Expedition Zero.
Somehow he's immortal. Also, the white-haired guy Renoir is also immortal.
Hmm.
Yeah.
He joins your
He
crew.
joins your crew. And then you go bury Gustav, and then you get Monoko,
Yes.
Verso's
His best
buddy,
friend.
and Verso and Monoko's just the way they interact with each other is fantastic. It is just dudes who just
What
are
a
going to constantly shit on each other and just poke fun at each other. It's fantastic.
It's such a good
It is
dynamic.
an incredible dynamic.
Like you know what you're getting yourself into as soon as they do the whole like there's gonna be a lot of fighting, whole back and forth. You're like, oh, okay. Okay. All right, I'm in. I'm locked in. Let's go.
hmm
Monoko and Verso are fantastic.
Yeah, especially like when you get the relationship scenes with them. Some really
Mhm.
fun stuff in there. Just guys
Braiding
being
hair.
dudes, beating each other up, going and just fighting other things.
One of them being the little spoon.
Yeah. So good. It's just so fun.
It's so fun. I love those two.
What a good dynamic. What a good thing this game has.
Yeah. And then you add in SK as well, and you're just like, oh my God, this is
Mhm.
beautiful.
The
What a good
lads.
thing. The lads. And it is also interesting that SK mentions Verso like before you ever meet him.
Hmm.
I was like, oh, interesting. So there's that.
There's
But
that.
yeah, those are some good
Some
lads.
good lads. You eventually learned that Verso is Renoir's kid.
Yep.
The girl in the mask is his sister Alicia.
Hmm.
Um, and everyone gets very mad because he didn't tell them any of that.
Right.
And then they got to go kill the paintress at some point. They are able to do that, but then which is some fun cutscenes in there if you have some fun costumes on, of course. You learn that that is Verso's mama.
His mama.
And then everyone comes back to Lumia and everyone's fine. Yay! Except, oh God,
Yay. Oh
everyone's
no.
disappearing. And then there was a
The
letter
gomage.
from Alicia. It was like, hey, you probably shouldn't do this. It seems bad. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
And then you learn about, like, the real truth of the story where, like, all of this is essentially fake.
It's all taking place in a painting.
Yes, there's like this war going on between painters and writers that Alicia, who is actually Mael, her family, which is basically all of the characters from what you've already seen, that is like her actual family and everything. You also like learn about her other sister, Clea.
Clair.
Um, but yeah, like everything that's basically taking place was inside a painting and everything. And her mom and dad are inside the painting, like going at each other because everyone's just having a bad time. They're grieving because Verso's like actually dead,
Yeah, Verso died.
and just everything's bad.
Which that's what I was referencing in one of the black and white scenes is you actually hear Verso burning to death in one of them.
Hmm.
It's intense. Uh, Poor Ben Starr's throat had to have been wrecked doing that.
And yeah, Alicia is basically told like you got to go to the canvas, get rid of it, get mom and dad out of it and everything, and then we'll focus on our beef with the writers. And
Hmm.
then Alicia goes into the painting and she becomes Mael.
Yep.
And then once all this happens, she gets her memories back and everything. She gets the white hair. She comes back. She reunites with Verso, who's very sad. Renoir's like, I'm going to destroy this painting. And she's like, no, you can't. It's Verso's painting. No.
No. Do you want to hear something interesting?
Yeah.
Um, so Mael is 16, right?
Mm-hmm.
She has lived for 16 years in this world. Um, but she's also 16 outside. So if you add up the two 16, she's 32, so she's the same age as everybody else that was on the expedition, sort of.
Not 33, though.
No, well, they're not 33
I
either.
know. But yeah,
They're
that's
32.
interesting.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting little thing. I don't know, like it probably was not intentional, but it is
Yeah.
interesting.
But Mael's able to basically take her. She has her painting
She's
abilities
powerful now.
about now. And she's able to bring back Lune and CL and
Mm.
Minoko and SK and some other people as well that you'll use for the final stuff and all that. And you gotta go learn about some stuff once you've done all of this, of course. It's very interesting that like once Mael learns her painting abilities, they give you with things like, oh, now you can just do more damage, in game. Like there's no damage cap anymore. And it's like,
Yeah.
yes,
Yes.
yes.
It's beautiful being able to do so much damage.
Hmm. But it's also an interesting point here where like, there are parts where like some of the relationship stuff you'll have quests that the characters will want you to do and everything, but also like you can just go beat the game now, and there's a ton of like side stuff that you could completely miss if you just go and finish the game immediately,
Yes.
which is very interesting. Like there's a lot of areas that'll open up after this because basically you just have like you get all the SK abilities, and then you can kind of just like go around everywhere and see places you haven't been before, do fights that you haven't done, do those quests and everything. There's also like harder fights as well, some super fights and all that sort of stuff, which I was dumb enough to do, I think. um,
What do you mean?
what do I mean? Yeah.
What do you mean?
I just somehow got over leveled, and then it was like, I guess I could just try these. Like the one where you got to fight 33 fights in a row, and then you have the worst boss fight out of all of them.
Yeah, I'm surprised that
where you got to fight mom and dad.
you gotta fight mom and dad. Which, by the way, I guess they also revealed that the curator is her dad.
Yeah.
So he gets booted from the camp. He can't do it anymore. So Mael does it all now.
And you can just do it from like the flagpoles, and it's very
Oh,
nice.
it's so nice. What a good quality of life change that is.
But yeah, some of the super bosses are interesting, but also kind of annoyingly hard. The tower where you got to do the 33 fights gets a little annoying at the end, where like just some of the boss fights are just super HP sponges. And then the final fight as well is annoying because like they'll do heals on certain attacks if you don't parry them all the way, and it's just like they have so much HP, so it just takes forever. The Clair fight was a little bit annoying as well because she also has a healing attack, but it wasn't as bad as I thought as the parents fight. And then there's the dude from the first expedition that you can fight, and like his first half is pretty easy, and then he gets way more attacks afterwards. And I was like, I'm good. I'm okay with not doing this one.
You're like, oh, you know what? I think that was actually the easiest one, and then he got a phase 2, and you're like,
ah, damn.
Up. Never mind.
Yeah, so that's the only like super boss I didn't do. I did everything else except for that one.
Yeah. But I feel like, things like the Reacher, I think, should have maybe been required.
Yeah.
Because you learn a lot more about like Mael and Alicia and things like that from doing the Reacher and her like dynamic with her dad and like how her and Verso interact.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
I like the Reacher. Except for, I was very happy I finally got that anti-blight thing from the Reacher. Because
so
it was
good.
Like, blight is the worst status
it's so
effect.
Annoying.
Ugh, I hate it.
So good.
You can also do the gestural beaches and get bathing suits.
You can, which is basically where the mini games of this are, including like there's like the first one you do is like a parkour course. There's the volleyball one, which is fine until you do the last one, and then it's just annoying. There's the one that's just only up, which is just funny.
Especially given what you get in terms of the costume. Because that's the Minoko one.
Yes.
You get the banana hammock with
so good.
The inner tuber on his neck. It's very funny. But yeah, only up we're just like, oh, well, I guess we know when this was in development.
Yeah.
Because it's literally just only up. With that banger ass track.
There's another one as well. Oh, the other one is like a race.
There's the climbing wall one and then the race. But yeah, you get bathing suits, and some of them are really good, and some of them are very distracting.
Some of them just like they put physics on them dongs.
They put physics on them dongs. They're noticeable.
Which is very funny.
They're very noticeable. You don't normally get that in characters.
No.
I was like, oh, okay. Okay. I had Gustav rocking it for a while, and I was like, I can't do this. And then I had Verso rocking it for a while because I was like, Verso, yes. And then again, I was just like, you know what? I get it now. Why people are always distracted by the booba and stuff. I get it. It's distracting. There are some physics. But then also, like, you played for a while with Lune and, like, her one-piece bathing suit, and she had some interesting butt physics, too.
She sure did.
Them booty cheeks would go sometimes. I was like, oh, hello.
Yeah.
So, yeah, those costumes and minigames were interesting and funny.
Yeah, a lot of the side stuff is where you can kind of get a lot of the weirder... costumes and all that sort of stuff, and some weird content as well.
I would also clarify this is not really like Gunnar level territory of swimsuits. Like these are like
turn of the century swimsuits.
Yeah, they're They're that.
Yeah.
So like it's not like them running around in itty bitty bikinis and things like that. So
No.
it's tasteful fan service
Sure.
and equal opportunity fan service.
Yeah, Minoko's in a speedo.
He's in a speedo.
Uh,
um, but yeah, it was also the baguette costume is pretty good.
Baguette costume's very good. Just having a baguette on your back.
And there's the one scene where you can have Verso split himself in half, and he gets two baguettes.
That's just very good.
That's really good. Which we haven't really mentioned a whole lot of the like bonding scenes other than like they exist.
Hmm.
But those are actually really interesting. You find out more about like CL and like what she struggled to go through and find out that like SK saved her at one point.
Yeah, because she tried to
Um,
essentially commit suicide, and SK's like, "I'm gonna get you back," and then like,
you're a bad swimmer.
yeah, and then eventually like he talks to her, and she's like, "Oh, you said like this isn't the first time you met me." He's like, "Yeah, the first time I met you, you were in the water. You seemed like you were struggling, so I brought you back." And it was really nice.
It
SK,
was
good
really
boy.
cute. SK good boy, full of wine.
Yeah, also full of wine.
And he gets a little bandana. He gets an Expedition
hmm
33 bandana because he feels left out. Did Minoko get a bandana? Or a
No,
armband? Oh,
Minoko's too
Minoko.
cool.
Minoko. Um,
God, I remember the recruitment of Minoko where he's like, versus like, "Hey, you want to come join us?" He's like, "No, absolutely not. We're just gonna be a lot of
nope.
fighting." All right, I'm in.
I'm in. It's so good.
So good.
I love those two. But yeah, you get some good stuff like that. You get to find out like what happened with Lune's parents and um that gives her some closure, which is good. 'Cause she's kind of been like what's the word I'm looking for? She's had to deal with like the legacy of her family for so long that like having some kind of closure on it is great for her.
Yeah,
Um, Obviously Mael has a lot of stuff that she deals with.
just a little bit.
Yeah. So, those are really fun. You can also date people
hmm
as Verso, which you have to pick the right things and you can only date one girl at a time and all that fun stuff, which I kind of felt like a scumbag at the end.
Oops, magoops.
Yeah, because I did the do with Lune because she's a baddie and you got to do the do with Lune. Um,
Unless you're me and you get nothing, because you get a glitch.
you fumbled the baddie via a glitch.
Yep.
I was so sad for you. Um, they make music together, and then they make music together.
Wink.
Wink, wink. It's like CL knows what you're doing. It's like why? Why does she know this? Why? Stop paying attention to what we're doing. Um, but that was the thing. Again, probably shouldn't have boned anybody given that, you know, Verso's not actually like a real person.
Well, neither are they.
Okay, you're right. But yeah, you're right.
At the end of the day, does it really matter?
No, you're right. You're right. So there's that. I'm a big fan of games about mourning and grief and how people deal with it. And so once we got to that angle, I was like, oh, hell yeah. I was already in. Now I'm hella in. I've mentioned this several times on the podcast of how big of a fan I am of those themes. Um, because obviously no one in this family is handling this properly.
No.
Which like understandable. What they say is that like Alicia was somehow like duped. She was tricked by the writers, and they set the manor on fire, and Verso saved her, and she died. He died, not she. He died. Um, which then leads to the whole thing of, the mom goes to the canvas to try and deal with her grief, and then the dad goes in to get her out, and that causes the fracture. And then Clay is here sometimes and sometimes not because she's also fighting the war in the real world with the writers. And then Alicia shows up and becomes Mael, and um, Painted Verso is just like, so yeah. No one in this family knows how to handle grief.
No, they do not.
Um, because yeah, Mael lost two brothers slash a dad. Sad.
Sad.
But she wants to take down dad so that we can get everybody out of the canvas and get this figured out.
And she does take down Dad, especially if you're me and he never gets an attack in, and you just defeat him very easily.
That was so brutal.
I mean, that's what happens when you're level 92.
Oh no, it was intense. Oh, also, I don't know if well, you knew this. They do talk about that, like the axons, are like representatives of the families.
Mm-hmm.
So the Reacher is Mael, Alicia. The dancing one, the like Serene or whatever her name was, I don't remember. That's the mom. The Visages, he who hides the truth behind lies was Verso, and then Clea was one that is on the world map but has been killed by Simon's swords. Mm-hmm.
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 Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But yeah,
Yeah, so that's the situation.
you fight Papa, and he
Papa.
doesn't get any hits off, and he just gets beat up, and then you have to decide if you're gonna go stay in the canvas or leave the canvas.
Well, and mom also does come back in and is trying to like help in the fight.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause the accent's like healing Papa, and she's like, nope,
No healing.
no healing. But yeah, Alicia wants to stay. Dad's like, I'll leave the lights on for you when you come back. Doody doody doo.
But also, like, Mael is very much like, I'm going to stay here. That is my choice. I'm staying here. That's that, and then I'll eventually come back. And then afterwards, it's like, all right, well, now you got to make a choice if you want to stay here or leave. And it's like, what, huh? What?
Well, the difference is she did tell her dad, like, I will come back. And she has no intention of ever actually going back because she says that if she does leave, he will destroy the canvas.
No comeback.
And she doesn't want that. So her intention is to stay in there forever, which is what her mom was doing.
And that's what you got to decide.
Do you side with Mael and stay in the canvas, or do you side with Verso and get Mael out of the canvas? And we picked opposite choices.
We did.
Which is interesting.
Yep. If you side with Mael, she stays there. The people come back. And then she starts to look like she's getting all messed up because she's been using too much power.
Mm-hmm. And Verso's old and married and is very unhappy about being there and playing the piano.
If you choose Verso, he kicks her out, destroys the canvas, and then they back in the actual reality, the family gets together to be at Verso's grave, but they all look very unhappy.
I mean, he is still dead.
Well, yes.
So that's a bummer. And I realized that I was interpreting things different than a lot of people, and I'm not sure how to feel about that. But there is the way that they're all set up in this scene at Versa's grave is that like Clea's on the right, then the parents are next to her, they're hugging, they're sad, whatever. Then there's a space, and then there's Alicia and slash Mael. And I was seeing that people were interpreting that as like, oh, they still don't want to be around her, because of like her disfigurement and because it's her fault, blah 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 blah. That's not how I interpreted it at all. I interpreted it as the space is there for Verso. That like there's an obvious thing still missing from their lives, and that's where he would go.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I interpreted it. Not that they're still mad at her. So that was interesting. I guess that's the beauty of art. Other people can have interpretations.
True.
Um, yeah, I mean, the reason I picked Verso is just because I don't like the idea of continuing the cycle. Um, Grief is awful and terrible, and I could tell you all about that. But like, I don't feel like running away from it is the answer either. Um, the thing that makes it unique with Mael, though, is that, she does have now a disability in the real world that she doesn't have in the canvas. Because, her face is still burnt. She's still missing an eye. She still has difficulty talking, all that fun stuff. So that sucks quite a bit. Um, yeah. I don't know. I also just felt bad that this little kid version of Verso is just gonna have to paint forever.
Get the
Like,
painting.
we're just gonna enslave this child soul of Verso to keep this going. Okay. Um, I don't know. What did you think about the endings? Because, like I said, we picked different ones, and
Right.
you've seen both now.
I would say neither is a good ending, like you
No,
had
they're both
said.
bad.
Yeah,
They're
this
both bad.
nothing really gets ended on a good note here. I don't know. I liked more the idea of Mael kind of just getting to like pick things on her terms
Hmm.
instead of having everyone else decide things for her. And also, I understand the idea of just like, she has all these relationships with people, even though they're not real, or I guess technically, but like they are relationships to her that she does not have in the real world. Like her family's still going to be incredibly fed up in the real world,
Yep.
as we see in the other ending. It's like, I don't think the parents would be all like, oh, we're going to hug each other now. Like, you guys have been at odds for like years. Like, what the that's not how this would be. Clay is still going to be off doing her own thing. Like, she's basically still alone. Like, it's a
Yeah.
thing for her to go back into the real world. Like, nothing changes for her except that she's got less abilities and she has no one to rely on. It sucks.
Well, she's still a paintress.
Yeah, but she has no one to rely on. So
And Verso tells her, like, go paint new worlds. Don't rely on this world.
but I like more. I don't know. I just like more the idea of like getting to see all the people like she has relationships with, like, continue to exist and everything. And there was just part of me that felt like the whole idea of like Verso and Renoir coming in and just being like, we got to get you out of here, and all that. Like, you have to leave and everything because this is all fake and everything. Felt too reminiscent to the Danganronpa V3 ending for me.
Oh, that's a bad ending.
So that's my opinion, at least.
Okay. So yeah, we do have very different opinions on the endings, but that is at least you're not calling me like a genocider or anything, which is good.
What?
Yep.
Al, get off the internet.
Yeah, the internet's bad. The internet's very, very bad. I really like this game though.
Yeah, it's very good. A lot of fun to
Um,
play. The story has a lot of good bits in it and all that. Like I think like we said, the endings are kind of not, they're not happy. I wouldn't say they're bad or anything. It's just like,
Neither of them are great solutions for the characters
true.
because there is no good solution for what's going on.
Yeah.
Um,
And like it's fine. That's totally fine. If stories don't always have to have happy endings for the characters, don't have to like wrap everything up with a nice little tight bow for everyone. Like they can be what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know what the word.
Sad.
Well, no, not sad, but like they can be ambivalent essentially.
Oh, okay.
They don't have to. Not everything needs to be, you know, wrapped up essentially. Like I said,
Hmm.
and that's just the way stories can be sometimes, and that's totally fine.
Yeah. You know what else I liked about the first ending?
What?
That SK doll she has.
And that was pretty good.
That's pretty good. We never mentioned though the Monoko is the dog.
That so you told me that, and like I guess like that was stuff you'd have to like find afterwards. I think you said or something. Like you had to look some stuff afterwards, and then you found out about that, and I was like, that's crazy, but also it makes sense, but also just so wild.
It mentions there's a mention of it, I think, at the end of Act 2.
Hmm.
There's something that's like brought up, and I was like, huh.
And there's the dog room in the manor.
There's the dog room in the manor. And so I ended up like thinking, okay, maybe this is a situation. Then I looked it up and it's like, ah, yes, this is a situation. Is that Monoko and Noko are dogs,
What the dog doing?
which again
Wearing a
makes the
speedo.
this is fine thing so funny.
But yeah,
Really good.
this game is really good.
It's very good. I'd love to see what
Understandable.
this team does next.
Yeah, it's understandable why it has gotten so much praise throughout the year so far and everything, and just it's a really good time. Like I would be really curious to see, like you said, what they do next. Like if they try and do anything else with this story, because like you could do, I think, more with the story in terms of like the stuff that's happening in the real world.
Hmm. Yeah, I'd still love to know more about the writers.
Yeah. So like there's
Um,
that's a possibility, or like they could just go off and do something else. Who knows?
I wonder if they're gonna do more like Clair Obscur stuff, but not Expedition 33.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they could for sure.
Yeah, I have no idea, but I would love to see what this team does next
Yeah.
because this was a solid game.
Mm-hmm.
I was a huge fan of this.
What?
Yeah,
What?
who could have seen that
Who could have
coming?
seen this coming? Yeah.
Except for that volleyball.
Oh, the volleyball.
Ugh,
Ugh, ugh, ugh, ugh, ugh, ugh.
terrible.
But yeah, good game, fun game. That's it. That's all I got.
Woo!
Home baguette.
Oh,
I
baguette.
gotta add that.
Also, you fight mimes.
You do fight mimes. One of the mimes is bald,
Yeah,
and then lets you be bald, which is very funny.
it's pretty funny. But I do appreciate that you get to fight mimes. I like that a lot.
Beat up the mimes.
What other game lets you beat up mimes?
I mean, there's probably a few out there, I would assume.
What other game this year lets me beat up mimes?
Okay, that's fair. Good idea. There you go. But yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up for us this week.
Yes.
So if you'd like more from us, head on over to seasonalanimeCheckup.com or sac.cool, where you can find past episodes of this podcast and other podcasts like Jared Now Watch. You can also find columns and reviews on the site as well. If you'd like more from Anladium, go to anladium.com. She's got columns and reviews. You can follow us on Twitter and TikTok at Anime Checkup. Follow us on Blue Sky Seas, animecheckup.com. You can buy our books, One Shiny Moment, A Critical Analysis of Love, Life, Sunshine, Hot Tubs, and Pac-Man on Amazon.com. And get support us on Patreon, patreon.com/SACOVA. Buy us a slice of pizza. Get access to unedited versions of the podcast early. Our monthly exclusive Patreon podcast, which has a new episode out, where we watched Sonic the Hedgehog 3, which is just...
A fever dream.
It's something. It's something, all right.
Yep.
There's a load of other bonus content and other episodes of the exclusive pod up there on the Patreon as well.
Yes.
Next week, we'll probably do our second half of the year look ahead to see what's coming out and chit chat about things that will be coming out in the latter half of the year and the year to follow, essentially. Especially because Al's got a busy, or has had a busy week, I guess, once this comes out, and we'll just need some time to relax. And this seems like a good idea a good way to relax.
I was literally about to say to you, thank you for letting me have a more chill situation next week, since everything is chaotic right now.
Of course.
I am moving, friends, to a different apartment. Still the same place.
Still chaotic.
Still chaotic. It's a lot.
But yeah,
hopefully the cats don't hate me too bad.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see.
We'll talk about all that stuff next week.